China-Vietnam tensions. Beijing vows to continue drilling. China has said its oil rig will continue drilling in contested waters in the South China Sea, despite deadly anti-Beijing riots in Vietnam. China's top general Fang Fenghui said Beijing cannot afford to lose an inch of territory, blaming Hanoi for stirring up trouble in the region. Speaking in the U.S., he also warned that America's efforts to increase its focus on Asia were fueling tensions. A Chinese worker died in an attack on a steel mill in Vietnam on Wednesday. Almost 150 other people were injured as protesters targeted the Taiwanese mill in the central Ha Tinh province. On Tuesday, at least 15 foreign-owned factories were set on fire at industrial parks in Binh Duong province, and hundreds more attacked. No casualties were reported. China's Jiangxi 981 oil rig was brought into waters west of the disputed Parasil Islands earlier this month, leading to collisions between Vietnamese and Chinese ships as Hanoi sought to block the move. It's quite clear who is conducting normal activity and who is disrupting it, Zhen Feng, the People's Liberation Army's chief of the General Staff, said during a visit to Washington. He also said some nations in the region had seized upon U.S. President Barack Obama's so-called pivot to Asia to stir trouble. Zhen Feng also urged the U.S. not to take sides in China's escalating dispute with Vietnam. The U.S. State Department called on all parties to refrain from violence. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi earlier condemned the violence in an urgent call with Vietnam's Deputy Prime Minister Pham Binh Minh, according to China's Xinhua news agency. Mr. Wang also called on Hanoi to take measures to ensure the safety of the lives and property of Chinese nationals and firms in Vietnam. A delegation of Chinese officials has been sent to Vietnam for talks. Nationalist sentiment is currently running very high in Vietnam over the issue, correspondents say. Protesters appear to have targeted businesses with Chinese characters in their signs, even if they are from places such as Taiwan. A Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman has said the violence had a direct link with the Vietnamese side's indulgence and connivance in recent days with some domestic anti-China forces and lawbreakers. In an emergency letter to the police ministry, Prime Minister Nguyen Tan Dung called the protests against the illegal oil rig a legitimate action. But he said those who broke the law should be punished and foreign business activities protected. 1954–1975 Communist China backs North Vietnam during the Vietnam War. 1974 China and South Vietnam fight a bloody war over the Parasil Islands. China seizes Vietnam-controlled islands. 1975 Vietnam War ends. Vietnam-China relations deteriorate over Hanoi's ties with Russia and Beijing's support for the Khmer Rouge. 1979 China and Vietnam fight a border war, thousands of troops die. 1988 two sides fight over the Spratly Islands, about 60 Vietnamese sailors killed. 1991 Sino-Vietnamese ties normalized, trade expands. 2011 tensions mount with China over South China Sea exploration, US-Vietnam rapprochement gathers pace. China claims a U-shaped swathe of the South China Sea, including several areas that its Southeast Asian neighbors say belong to them. In recent years it has started to enforce these claims more assertively, leading to severely strained ties with the Philippines and Vietnam in particular.